September of 1794, the center of protest against the excise tax on whiskey in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, was focused in the center of the public square, located over my right shoulder, in what is today the intersection of Hanover Street and High Street. In that location, there were 2 Liberty poles erected by citizens of Cumberland County and Carlisle who were sympathetic to the Whiskey Rebels. The first Liberty pole was erected on the evening of September 9th. However, the next morning, citizens who viewed that act as treasonous tore down the Liberty pole and removed it from the public square. As you might expect, this response enraged the supporters of the Whiskey Rebels. Runners were immediately sent out into the countryside to gain support for raising a second Liberty pole. On the 11th of September, that second pole was erected in the same place in the center of the intersection over my shoulder. An armed guard was posted on that pole, and for the next 3 days, it was the center of protest in Cumberland County.
In September 1794, Carlisle, Pennsylvania, was the easternmost edge of organized opposition to the 3-year-old excise tax on distilled spirits. That month, 2 Liberty poles were erected in Carlisle. On the evening of September 9th, the first Liberty pole was raised about a man's height. Appearing to be too uneasy for the men raising it, Joseph Steele, a Carlisle clockmaker, ran forward and assisted in raising it. A bloody flag with 8 stripes was hung from the pole, which was inscribed with "Liberty and no excise." The following morning, a group of citizens who viewed the pole as treasonous, as well as a nuisance, given that it was located directly in the center of the borough square, cut the pole down and removed it from the square. This action enraged the opponents of the excise tax, and runners were dispatched in every direction to inflame the minds of the country people and persuade them to assist in raising a second pole. The next day, September 11th, a second Liberty pole was raised in the public square with the inscription "Liberty and Equality," and to which another bloody flag with 8 stripes was attached. This second pole was guarded by a large contingent of excise tax opponents. The streets were lined with persons armed with bludgeons, loaded whips, and pistols, and declarations given that destruction would fall on the town in case this ensign was pulled down. This pole was heavily guarded for the following 2 nights, and residents of the borough were terrorized by the firing of guns, bonfires, and general harassment. On September 12th, protesters burned the Chief Justice of the United States, John J. Roberts, in effigy in the public square. By this time, the lives of several citizens had been threatened. On the evening of September 11th, Ephraim Blaine, a respected Carlisle citizen and former Commissary General of the Continental Army, was attacked in the streets by armed men and pursued nearly 2 miles, during the course of which he was fired on 5 times. Order was finally restored, and the protesters were dispersed when the lead units of the National Army arrived in Carlisle on September 28th.